Okay, the percent equation. So we're going to be translating into the percent equation. All right, so we need to know some words for math symbols. So we're going to take some words into math symbols. Is means, the literal translation, equal. So wherever the is, you're going to replace it with an equal sign. Of, and some of you have already been mentioning this when we talked about it the other day when we were trying to think of. Of means what you think? Means multiply, absolutely. Or another way to display multiplies with the parentheses, yes? Okay. Now here's where we need to remember a step when we're using this percent equation. Now, I like the percent proportion, but some of you are going to like the percent equation a little better. So anytime we have a percentage, so let's say we have 58%, it could be any percent that you have. Before you turn it, when you translate it, percent needs to be converted to its decimal form. So we need to convert to decimal form. And that means we're going to move decimal 2 to the left. 2 to the left. So that means we're going to drop the percent sign, replace it with the decimal, and we're going to move it over twice to the left. So 58% is actually 58 hundredths. So you've got to remember to do something here if you're going to use this form. Does that make sense? Whereas in the percent proportion, we didn't have to. Okay? So you got those three things you need to remember. The last one's probably the most important. So you better put a star next to this one. Cannot forget to do. Okay? So we're just going to take what we worked on yesterday. So here's the sentence. 15 is what percent of 60? And we're going to literally translate it. So what do we know the is? What does the is mean? So we're going to replace it with an equal sign. We're going to go and bring down the of. We're going to look for the of, and what do we know we're going to put for the of? Multiply. Okay. We know what this is, so we're going to go ahead and bring 15 down. We're going to go ahead and bring the 60 down. What are we going to put in place for here? What percent? Do we know it? If we don't know something in math, what are we going to replace it with? X, a variable. So it could be X, it could be N, it could be M. Depends upon you. Does that make sense? All right, so here we go. Now, we have an equation. We have translated into equation. 15 equals M times 60. That is what we've done. We've translated it from a word problem into an equation. So now, we have a simple one-step equation. Now think about this. We have a multiplication problem on the right-hand side. What is the inverse of multiply? Divide. So we're going to divide by 60 because we want that giant 1, don't we? We get that giant 1, we get M by itself. That means whatever I do to one side, because that equal sign, what does that mean for the other side? I have to do the same thing. That whole giant 1 idea, Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So now we have m equals 15/60. So now take your calculator. Here's where the calculator is going to come in handy. But remember, we got to be able to divide it correctly. Are we dividing by 60 or are we dividing by 15 here? Huh? Are we going to divide by 60 or divide by 15 here? Think about it. No, it doesn't. It's got to be 60. Why? Yeah, so now look, it sets it up. It's going to be 15 divided by 60 in your calculator. See, here's where that calculator is great and all, but if you put it in the wrong way, you're going to be in trouble. So 15 divided by 60, what do you get? Oh, m equals 0.25, but we're looking for a percentage. What do we have to do? Huh? Yeah, if we moved it to the left 2 places to turn it into a decimal, in order to turn it into a percentage, what do we have to do? Yeah, we've got to move it back to the right. A lot of things to remember, huh? So m is going to equal 25%. Question is, will you remember to move it back to the right and then put the percent sign there? Whereas in the percent proportion, I didn't have to move anything, did I? And we said the percent proportion works every single time too, doesn't it? All right, just leaving it up to you. All right, we ready? Okay, so here's your next example. What number is 40% of 50? So here we go. We're going to translate it. Remember, when you look for the is, what is the is always going to be? The equal sign. What does of mean? Of means multiply. And then we're going to bring down everything else. So do we know what the number is? What number? What does that tell me? What are we putting in place of anything that has the what in front of it? Variable. N. Number. Bring the 50 down. Now, what do we have to remember about this? 40%. We need to turn into its decimal form, don't we? So we've got to move that decimal point 2 to the left always, because we're talking about percentages. It's always only 2. So that means it's going to turn into 4/10, isn't it? So now, n, 4/10 times 50. So go ahead and use your calculator if you need to. N is going to equal what? N is going to equal 20, isn't it? Okay. So far, everything's worked, right? Okay, here we go. Here's the next one. 14 is 25% of what number? Okay, so the word we're always looking for first is. What are we putting in for the is? Equal sign. Of means multiply. So we're going to go and bring everything down now. 14 just comes straight down. But any percentage, what do we have to do? We have to convert it into its decimal form, and it's going to be 25 hundredths. What's the of this time? An N or an X or an M, okay, variable. Okay, so we have 25 hundredths times a number equals 14. So what do we have here on the right-hand side? We have a simple one-step equation, don't we? What's the inverse of multiply? So what are we dividing by? No, we're not. Yeah, we're dividing by 2,500. So we always look to the variable side. The variable side always tells us what to do. Does that make sense? Always go to the variable side because that's what we're solving for. Now notice when we divide by 2,500, what do we get? We get our giant 1. So that's just 1 n now. So we get n equals, but we have to do whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So here we go. How are we going to enter this into our calculator? Exactly. It's going to be 14 divided by 2,500. So n equals what? 56? Yes? I'm trusting you guys can key this into the calculator, right? Because I'm writing too. So there's your answer. Okay? Here's the trap. Here's where it does not work. What percent is 18 of 50? Here's the trap. Do we know the percentage? If we were to literally translate this, no. So it'd be n. We said is means equal. And then we're going to bring of means what? Of means multiply. And we're just going to bring these numbers down, aren't we? So if I multiplied 18 by 50, you're telling me I'm going to get 900. And it's percent, isn't it? Does that seem right to you?
No.
Not even close. So this is where it doesn't work. So do you need to pay attention every once in a while? Yeah. Okay. But guess what? If we use the percent proportion, so this is wrong, isn't it? Wrong. Okay, wrong. But if we use the percent proportion here, would it work? We're going to find out real quick. Do we know what our percent is? Nope, there's our x. Do we know what our is? It's 18. Our of is 50. Look at this. Do I need to do anything really?
No.
Do I see a relationship here real quick?
Yeah.
Between the 50 and the 100, right? Couldn't I just multiply by 2? Multiply by 2. So x equals what? 36%. Holy cow, 36% versus 900%. There's a huge difference. But the thing about the proportion, it always works. But you have to have the ability to deal with both. That's why we're showing you both. Got it? Okay. Questions on this? All right, here's your opportunity. Let's find out. Keep this in your notes so that you understand what you're doing. Let's try this problem and translate it. 75% of what number is 84? Look at your notes to see if you can help you figure it out. That's why we write the notes down. Or do you want me to walk you through this one again? You guys want to try it on your own? Okay. If you feel a little hesitant, then just kind of wait a couple seconds. I'll let people work a little. And then we'll break it down. Who's not comfortable with this yet? All right. So I'll probably be picking on you to help me out. Okay. Now people are already saying, man, I'd rather do the proportion way anyway. Yeah, I figured as much. There's a whole lot of moving pieces here, huh, that you've got to remember. Whereas a percent proportion, it's whew, done. Okay. All right, so here we go. What's the key word that we're looking for? Is and of, right? What are we putting in place of is? Equal sign. Of means multiply. We're going to go and bring the 84 down because we know it goes there. What do we put here for what number? Variable. Oh, 75%. What do we have to do there? We're going to have to turn it into a decimal, so it's going to have to turn into 7,500. So 7,500 times a number equals 84. So what are we going to do here? Zoe? Yeah, we're going to divide 7,500 to both sides. Okay, so there's our giant 1, isn't it? So we get 1x. X always wants to be by itself with a 1 in front, right? Okay, here we go. Can we enter it into the calculator correct? And that's going to be 84 divided by 7,500 because look, that whole giant 1 idea, divide by 7,500, divide by 7,500. There's our giant 1. So what'd you get here? 112? Okay, so there's our answer. So if I'm letting you use calculators, I'm fine with it, but you better set them up correctly. And you better be moving things around like you're supposed to. A lot of moving pieces, a lot of things to remember, right? So go ahead and practice it tonight or on your homework, but if you feel comfortable with that I'm leaving that choice up to you, right? If you like that percent proportion a lot better, then stick with it because obviously it's working, yes? Okay, you can do either one. I'm just showing you both ways. Got it? Okay, one more. What is, let's see, what is 88% of 300?
Well, my dad taught me a different way to do it, but not do it that way.
We're working on this. Come on.
So you take 88%.
We're going to look for this word first, right? Equal, yes. What is? Do we know what is? Not yet. So what are we going to put out here? N, right? 88% is going to turn into 8,800 of 300. Now we just plug it in the calculator, don't we? What'd you guys get? What's that? 264. Hey, people got 264 there. Okay. All right. Let's try one more of these. 24 is what percent of 120? Remember, we're looking for this and this to help us out, yes? So what are we putting in place of the is? Equal sign. What are we doing with of? We know it's multiply, don't we? Okay, then we just bring what we know down. Obviously, we're going to put right here on the left-hand side of the equal sign, 24. What are we putting here for what percent? Do we know it? Nope. So it's going to be x, and then we're going to go ahead and bring the 120 down. Okay, so we have x times 120 equals 24. So what are we doing? We have multiply here, so what's the inverse of multiply? So what are we dividing by? 120, that whole giant 1 idea, right? That means whatever I do to one, I have to do to the other. So now we're going to get x equals 24 divided by 120. That's how you would key it in your calculator. X equals what? 2/10? 0.2, is that what you got? Okay, now what do we have to remember to do? Because we're looking for a percentage. We're going to put a percent. The answer should have a percent sign after it, but what are we going to do to the 0.2 or the 2/10? Yeah, we're going to have to move it over 2 spots. So that's 0.2. We're going to move it over twice. Fill in a 0. And there's our percent, 20%. Like I said, there's a lot of things that you have to remember here, don't we? Okay, so I'm leaving that choice up to you. All right.